Hello, and in this video we are going to think about word combinations. So this is where we have two words together, but the meaning of the phrase, the meaning of the idea comes from both of those words or three of these words. So you must have those words together to have that meaning. So individually they do not have that meaning, but together they do have that meaning. So for example, if we think of end, to end a conversation, to end a relationship, end a book. But think end up. So I think that word combination has a different meaning. It does not mean end, and it does not mean up, but end up has a different meaning, right? To finish in an unexpected way. Or watch a movie, watch soccer. However, watch out has a different meaning. If somebody shouts, watch out, that has a different meaning. It does not mean watch and it does not mean out, but watch out, the combination, has a different meaning. So same with speak and speak up. So speak, like, do you speak English, or he speaks loudly, she speaks softly. But speak up, that combination has a different meaning. Okay, so it can mean two things. It can mean to object to something, or it can mean to speak louder. So if somebody asks you, please speak up, they're not asking you to speak, they're asking you to speak louder. Okay, so these word combinations are called phrasal verbs or verb phrases. So this is the difference between normal verbs and phrasal verbs or verb phrases. Phrasal verbs or verb phrases are possibly the most difficult part of English, in my opinion. More difficult than perfect tenses. They're more difficult than articles like a, the, and an. And I think it's for these reasons. Number one is that they are very, very common. They are part of everyday English. And they're so normal that native speakers don't really consider them as being difficult when they are speaking to a non-native speaker. So quite often it can get maybe confusing quite quickly because they're so common. They are part of everyday speech in English. They're more casual register. Register is the level of formal English. So are you speaking very formal English, or are you speaking very casual English with slang, shortened words, that kind of thing? So because they're a more casual register, they are therefore more common because people use consultative and casual register more often than formal English. There are thousands and thousands of phrasal verbs. They are unpredictable, which means go off, go out, go through. It's very difficult to actually predict what the last word is going to be. So quite often you just have to learn them through experience or learn them through actual study. So yeah, they're quite unpredictable. For example, put up, the opposite is not put down. So if you put up with noise, meaning to tolerate noise. The opposite is not put down. Okay, so you kind of have to learn them as and when you meet them. Plug in. The opposite is not plug out. The opposite is unplug. So they are very difficult to predict. So mostly you can learn them through experience, just kind of noticing when you're reading or when you're listening, kind of noticing these things. So you can actually learn them in context. Some can be split, but some cannot. So for example, he took his sweater off. So take off can be split, whereas other phrasal verbs cannot be split. They must stay together. And finally, what makes it difficult is where it says often, I think they usually have multiple meanings. So already in this video, I mentioned speak up. So speak up has two main meanings. One is just to speak louder, and one is to object to something. So they usually have multiple meanings. So if we look at just go off, go off has 16 different meanings. Some of them are specific to certain countries like Australia or Britain, but they have different meanings. And again, it's the combination that we are kind of looking for, right? They have to stay together. So think about, what do these phrasal verbs mean? Okay, so I've given you the phrasal verb and I've given you a context sentence. So run into, because again, of course, run into can have multiple meanings. So run into problems, ended up, think through, break down, move along, figure out, move on, deal with, rely on, come up with. Okay, so without using a dictionary, please, just have a think, what is the meaning of those phrasal verbs in this case? Okay, so I'll be quiet. I'll give you some time to think. Okay, so as I said, these have multiple meanings, so we're just dealing with one meaning in this video to keep it simple. So we have run into. Okay, so run into means to encounter unexpectedly, and it's almost always used with negative things, negative situations. It can sometimes mean meet, like run into a friend means to meet unexpectedly. But in this meaning, run into problems with software doesn't mean meet. You don't really meet software, but yeah, it means to encounter or to experience something unexpectedly. All right, next one. If we look at end up, so this means to do something eventually, but again, the nuance is that it is unplanned. So for example, we ended up getting married. Means that you did not plan to get married, but that's how it kind of, the situation resolved itself. Okay, so end up. And again, remember all of these words, it must be that word combination. All right, so next we have think through. So this means to think about a problem, but think about it in stages. Okay, so think about, we're not just thinking generally about a problem, but we're thinking about the kind of steps or the stages of, could be a problem or it could be an idea. So think through how this happened. Okay, you're not thinking about it generally, you're thinking about each step or each stage. Okay, we have breakdown. Okay, so in this case, breakdown is dividing something into parts or to categories or to stages. So in this case, it does not mean to, like a machine to break, like my car broke down on the highway. It does not mean that in this case. That's a different meaning. So breakdown in this case means to divide into parts so you can analyze something, is breakdown. It can often mean that physically. So if you have, if you're selling a sofa, for example, you might break down the sofa. You take off the legs and you take the cushions off. So it can be literally, physically dividing something into parts. But it can also be with ideas and concepts, etc. All right, next one, move along. Okay, so this is to progress. And in this case, it means to keep a conversation going, or to keep for example, a meeting, keep it developing. So it's like, okay, let's move along, or let's keep this moving along. Just means, let's not get stuck on one subject or one topic. Let's kind of develop it. Let's move along. Let's keep things changing. Okay, figure out. We have to calculate, to get a solution. Okay, so most common, like figure out a problem, figure out the reason for something. Okay, move on. So again, be careful with move along and move on. Okay, they sound similar, they maybe even look a bit similar, but they actually have different meanings. So in this case, it means to put a difficult or upsetting experience behind you. Maybe you had a very difficult end to a relationship. You broke up with somebody. There's a little bonus phrasal verb for you. So to move on means to kind of emotionally progress, right? You're going to put that negative feeling behind you and you're going to move on with your life. Okay, we have deal with. Okay, so deal with has different meanings, just like all of these phrasal verbs. So in this case is to take action. So it's either something important, or very commonly it's a problem. So something negative, right? So deal with a difficult customer, or deal with an issue. Okay, so it's something negative that you are taking action upon. Okay, so again, deal with has different meanings, but for us, for our context, deal with means to take action. Okay, we have rely on. So this is a common one. Rely on just means to get support from somebody. Okay, so it can be used positively or negatively. Okay, so it just means getting support from somebody. And last one, we have come up with. So in this case, again, come up with has different meanings, but for us, come up with is to produce, to think of, or to discover something. Okay, so come up with, produce, think of. So maybe solutions. or even problems, right? You might discover it's like, oh, actually, if we do this, the other thing will become a problem. Okay, so there we have it. We have our 10 phrasal verbs that we will need for. So we have run into, so an unexpected problem. We have end up, so is to become, and the nuance is that it is unplanned. We have think through, so think through the stages of a problem or an idea. Okay, so notice that that's different to think up. That is just to create something. But think through is specifically about the stages that you're doing something. Break down is to divide something into parts. Okay, this can be physical or not, or conceptual. Move along, so in our case this means to progress a conversation or to progress an idea. Figure out is to calculate, is to get a solution. Move on, for us, in our case, we're using this to mean to progress from a difficult experience or a difficult time in your life. Deal with, so take action, and the nuance is that it's something important. Rely on, so to need something or support from somebody. Okay, and again, that can be positive or negative. Okay, we have come up with, so to produce, think, or discover something. Okay, so that was a quick look at verb phrases, phrasal verbs, and they are a little bit difficult at first, but for the reasons here that we discussed, they are pretty important in English. And I think it's the kind of language that takes you to like the next level in English if you can master some of the common phrasal verbs, then it really takes your English to the next level. All right, so that was phrasal verbs. Thanks for watching.